morning and welcome back to Morning Movie News, which was on break last week because there was so much Marvel coverage to discuss. Yes, Infinity War took up all the air and money in the room. But speaking of Marvel, we have two Black Panther related stories to discuss today. And before we do, I would like to point out that Black Panther and Wonder Woman are cut from the same cloth in terms of not only being representation of two groups that, really wanted to step more into the forefront when it comes to genre filmmaking, particularly in the superhero genre. There have been a lot of female heroes in movies like Terminator and Alien, etc., but certainly not to the level of male action stars. But anyway, not only were they very well represented in their respective movies, but those movies were both very well received by critics and audiences, at least for a little while. Because Wonder Woman, of course, has run into quite the backlash. I mean, being part of the DCEU doesn't help, but even more so, people really love to hate on that movie. I'm seeing a little bit of a Black Panther backlash, but it's still very much beneath the surface. We'll see. I mean, maybe it's just delayed. I hope it never happens to you, Black Panther fans. I'm a Black Panther fan too. I'm a little bit more of a Wonder Woman fan, but it's been unfortunate. But anyway, the reason I bring it up is because while Wonder Woman stars Gal Gadot and Chris Pine weren't rewarded with diddly squat after Wonder Woman, I mean, there's Wonder Woman 2, obviously, but still, Black Panther stars are not only getting more work, but they're leveling up. So two actors today, as you can see from the pictures, Lupita Nyong'o and Michael B. Jordan, have very good developments for their career. So let's start with Lupita Nyong'o, because this story was huge yesterday. It got a Twitter moment. A lot of you tweeted me about it. It was a little bit of a slow news day as well, but still, this is a very big deal. So what's happening? Lupita Nyong'o got herself an action movie. Yay! Now, she doesn't seem like an action star when you think about it, right, at first glance, but she did do a very good job, obviously. I recently said that I think of any actress that could maybe take the mantle from Meryl Streep in terms of being able to transform for a role, I would actually say it's Lupita Nyong'o. And interestingly, they both went to the Yale School of Drama. But you would not think she would be able to be an action star. And in Black Panther, I thought at first she was overshadowed by Denai Guerrera's much more aggressive performance. But on my second viewing of Black Panther, I did in fact have a greater appreciation for Lupita Nyong'o's work there. I thought she also did a very nice job. A lot of good work in Black Panther. But speaking of Denai Guerrera, where's her follow-up movie? As I said in my coverage for that film, I think she would be great to star in like a B action movie, but she hasn't gotten anything. I think maybe there was one story if I recall, but still nothing at this level. So what did Lupita get? Well, she's an Oscar winner as well as a Black Panther star, so Universal has chosen her to be in John Woo's remake and reimagining of his own film, The Killer, back from his Hong Kong days. And it, of course, starred Chow Yun-fat. We talk about director-actor team-ups all the time. Well, that was John Woo's first one, Chow Yun-fat. They made a lot of great movies together, brought both of them to Hollywood. Both of them have unfortunately faded away. I have never seen The Killer, but I did see Hard Boiled. It's such a good film. I even for a while had a t-shirt from the movie with Chow Yun-fat carrying a baby. It was hilarious. He saved some babies at a hospital. It's a great movie. But anyway, in The Killer, an assassin decides to protect the young woman he accidentally blinded years ago on a job. And when I first read that synopsis, I was like, oh man, is Lupita Nyong'o the woman, the blind woman? And then the article was like, no, she's the killer. They're going to redo it. I think that's fabulous. And they're going to make it not only, do a gender, I don't know if they're going to gender swap. I don't know if she'll be protecting a young man. We'll see how that role develops for the remake. But they are going to not only make the assassin a woman, but they're going to update her assassin technology for the 21st century. Oh, this sounds fabulous. Very, very interesting. They're going to need a strong cast, though, to back Lupita Nyong'o up. And John Woo, who, again, as I said, has fallen out of favor. He not only has fallen away from being an A-list director in Hollywood, but I think there's a little bit of a bad taste with his name. I think you're going to need a little bit more to get people to see this. You don't want another Proud Mary situation. I mean, this is already leagues ahead of that because of Lupita Nyong'o and John Woo. But still, I think it's not out of the woods yet. Hopefully Widows, which is coming out this year, the Steve McQueen, Viola Davis, another Oscar winner, that film, that's a heist flick. So that could hopefully that'll have even just moderate success. And then Lupita Nyong'o and John Woo's The Killer can build on that. So very good news for Lupita Nyong'o. She is making up for lost time. Remember, she couldn't get any work after she won her Oscar? A lot because of the colorism in Hollywood, which they do seem to be working on it. Speaking of colorism, on a side note, don't forget Lupita Nyong'o wrote that wonderful book to try to combat that and creating self-esteem problems for children with darker skin. Fabulous stuff. Good for you, Lupita. Karma has paid you off handsomely. All right, so that's the first story of the day. Now, the second story of the day is about another Black Panther star, Michael B. Jordan, who, boy, is really making the most out of this opportunity. He's becoming like The Rock, who we're actually going to talk about next. And that's, they both not only star in a lot of projects, but they also produce. Michael B. Jordan is becoming a very prolific producer, and he just doubled down with Netflix, which is already set to debut his series Raising Dion on the streaming service next year. Remember we talked about that? It's based on a short film, and it's about a single mother trying to not only raise her superpowered, very young son. It's like a 6-year-old with superpowers. It's going to be really great, but at the same time trying to figure out like what happened to his father and why her son has superpowers. And I think Jordan has like a small role in that, but he's mostly behind the scenes. Why are you sitting on this Netflix? Release it. It sounds so good. But yes, Jordan will now have 2 series with Netflix because they just won a bidding war for a new series where he might star. He's going to see how it comes together. Now, the reason that Netflix wanted this so badly and had to compete with so many other distribution services for it is because it not only potentially stars Michael B. Jordan, but part of the package is Black Panther scribe Joe Robert Cole. So it's got quite the Black Panther pedigree. Now, I'll be interested to see if Jordan does decide to star in this. He's already starring in this month's Fahrenheit 451 on HBO, which is a movie, not a series. And he's doing a lot of cable streaming these days. And so the question is, will he continue with that, or will he want to become more of an exclusively big screen actor? I think it's hard not to notice that the streaming services and the cable, the pay cable service service like HBO, those are the opportunities that are moving forward. I mean, Michael B. Jordan has movie deals in place, but they're stuck. And so these are the sites that are willing to give him opportunities now, and he wants to strike while his Black Panther iron is hot. So I don't blame him, and it's unfortunate that his movies can't move forward a little bit faster. Come to think of it, I wonder how long it'll take The Killer to actually make it to the big screen, right? Are these just headlines? But anyway, speaking of the story here, let's talk a little bit about the series that Michael B. Jordan and Joe Robert Cole will be doing. So it's adapted. They're adapting Vault Comics' Failsafe. What the heck is Vault Comics? Well, Vault Comics is one of those tiny little comic book companies that doesn't really make comic books, but makes pitches, right? There's a whole bunch of these days because so many comic books are made into movies and TV series, etc. They basically put out 6-issue miniseries, and then they go run them around Hollywood and see if somebody will pick it up. For instance, Rick Remender has one coming out this week, I think from Image. It's called like Glory and Death or Death and Glory. It's so obviously a pitch for a TV series or a movie, it's almost a little bit insulting as a comic book reader that, they're trying to float it out as a comic first. As I've said with Mark Miller's, pitches, don't make me read your pitches, man. Just tell me when it's a movie or a TV show. But I am going to buy Rick Remender's comic as well. But anyway, and I don't care what they call it in the comic. They've come up with their own terms, but pretty much Michael B. Jordan would be playing a Blade Runner who realized he didn't complete his job of getting rid of all the replicants. So then his daughter is kidnapped, and he has to not only fight replicants to get her back, but also the system. I hope it turns out a little bit better than Altered Carbon, which I couldn't get through. I know some of you enjoyed it, but I did, after it came out, I saw one article, and they named Altered Carbon. I thought this was hilarious. One of the best shows to have on in the background. I was like, in the background? Really, Netflix? That's what you're doing these days? Background noise? I thought that was hilarious. And I think, we've talked about quantity over quality over at Netflix, and they really should be aiming to achieve both. But this is a very good team of Michael B. Jordan and Joe Robert Cole, so I would feel a little bit better about this. So those are the first 2 stories of the day. Now, yes, let's talk about The Rock, who is so busy he can't even star in the movies that he wants to, right? So we recently talked about the fact that he had acquired the rights to produce his own, hopefully his own Bourne franchise, the Janson Directive. And I say it's like Bourne because it's from the same author. So they're going to use that to promote the heck out of this. But he's too busy. He can't star in it. I think there's another reason he can't star in it, which we'll discuss in just a moment. But so now he's going to executive produce it through his production company, which he runs with his ex-wife. I see, no one can stay angry with The Rock, even his ex-wife. So anyway, he has cast his old wrestling buddy, John Cena, in the lead role. Now this is interesting because over the last couple of weeks, they've revived their rivalry from their wrestling days. Well, they simultaneously promoted Blockers and Rampage, which came out just a week apart. Now, while Rampage has not been a mega hit by any means of the word, it did better than Blockers, so The Rock certainly isn't threatened by John Cena. But still, it's unusual for Johnson to help another wrestler. In fact, he has yet to do it. He has not pulled in. A bunch of wrestlers want to be the next Dwayne Johnson. Ronda Rousey tried, remember? But he has not helped pull any of them through. But now he's going to help John Cena. I guess he feels John Cena passed the first round of not fading away on his own. So The Rock's going to reach out and give him a helping hand. Or this is just all a big trick, because look at the writing team that Johnson has put together on this project. Not only is Akiva Goldsman working on the story, but the writer is going to be James Vanderbilt, who wrote White House Down. Who would hire these people? I don't understand. It's crazy. This seems like the worst screenwriting team ever. I mean, how would you expect anything good to come out of that? But we'll see. Now, the story is that Janson, of the Janson Directive, is a former Navy SEAL who becomes a corporate security consultant, only to become a target himself when a rescue operation goes horribly wrong. I love pitch talk. It's so much fun. But anyway, this sounds a lot like the plot, and almost exactly like the plot of Johnson's Skyscraper, where he's a security consultant for this giant building, and then something goes wrong, and he finds himself in the middle of it. Hilarious! So maybe that's why he's not making this movie. He's like, I just made it. Although that's never stopped The Rock before. As we've been saying, he's in an awful lot of jungle movies. But speaking of Dwayne Johnson, he is at his best when he has a strong comedy streak in his projects, and I say the same goes for John Cena. So this doesn't really seem like a good fit to me on the surface. I think like the Duke Nukem project that he was being mentioned for would have been a much better fit for John Cena. I think he's even sillier than Dwayne Johnson, because I don't think, Dwayne Johnson has a very strong dramatic undercurrent that he can actually handle dramatic scenes. I don't know if the same can be said of John Cena. Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised, but right now this doesn't seem like a movie theater worthy experience. What do you think? Would you see the Janson Directive in theaters, or is the way the package is coming together right now, this seems like a movie you would watch like in an airplane or a hotel room or streaming, right? I would watch it there, though, I will say. All right, so those are the three stories of the day, and the viewer question comes from Killian 311-7511. I'll just call you Killian. All right, so Killian, viewer question. Hi, Grace. I have a question about Elsa from Frozen being potentially the first gay princess. They've discussed that. Jennifer Lee, who wrote the first Frozen, has become a big figure at Disney Animation. Word is she could potentially replace John Lasseter, who is rumored not to come back from his leave of absence. But she has said she's considering it. So anyway, Killian says, my question is, what do you think are the chances of that actually happening? And if you do think it'll happen, how do you think they would handle it in the movie? And if you don't think it will happen, why not? When will the gay community finally get recognition in a major blockbuster movie like the black community got with Black Panther and the Latino community with Coco? I'm getting really tired of all the lip service we get, but not any genuine representation in major blockbuster Hollywood. When do you think we'll get an openly gay princess? I understand your frustration, Killian, and I'm very sorry you have to go through it, but I think you're going to be waiting for a very long time. When it comes to big mainstream movies, I think you're more likely to get a very strong LGBT supporting character before you get a lead. I just think that's the way things are going, particularly after Love, Simon. You could not get a better movie than Love, Simon, but unfortunately, it did not do well at the box office. It made $40 million domestic, 14 foreign, and with a $17 million budget, which doesn't include advertising, it basically broke even. Now, it could do very well in the ancillary markets, streaming, etc. And a number of people have mentioned that people who would like to go see Love, Simon could not because, sadly they're still closeted, and so they couldn't go to the theater, and so they'll catch it when they can watch it privately. And so even if that does happen, that just proves that the small screen is really the best place for LGBT representation right now. Although even a show like Sense8, of course, got infamously canceled. Now with Frozen, I think the best that Disney can do is to continue not to give Elsa a love interest. And I suspect that is what they will do. Because not only will that, not betray the LGBT community, but a lot of people, even outside of the LGBT community, like the fact that Elsa did not have a love interest, to the point that they repeated it for Moana. So that's what I think they're going to do. As to why they would not, I think there would just be too much of a backlash, particularly in something that is children's entertainment. Now, I know a number of you feel that shouldn't be a problem, but look what happened to The Legend of Korra. And I think you have to be respectful of how different people want to handle sexuality being discussed with children. It's a very tricky space, and I think if you're going to see any ground be broken, it's not going to be in the children's entertainment area. That could eventually be folded in once there's success in adult entertainment, but that's where it's going to happen first. So I just don't see. I think it would hurt. I think there would be too much of a backlash, negative publicity. I think Disney just wouldn't want to do that, and they're going to probably. So that's what I think they're going to do. They're going to keep Elsa without having any love interest, and you can fill in the blank however you'd like. Now, if you're looking for strong LGBT representation, Killian, there are some great things going on in other places. For instance, I mentioned The Legend of Korra, a show that had to go off the air because of the decision they made to with the romance, the LGBT romance for their lead character. Even though the series had to go away, though, and it was actually put on streaming when that story was told, they did continue the story with scripts written by the actual main creators, so very strong quality, in a series of Dark Horse comics, which you can get right now on the Dark Horse website. So you can see that. So I would definitely recommend checking that out if you're interested. And then also, I'm watching this great new show, which I talked about on Morning Movie News about a week or so ago, called Killing Eve. It's on BBC America, and the lead assassin happens to be a lesbian woman, and she's a psycho, but she's incredibly charismatic, very competent, an amazing killer, a great character. So I think that's some great. It's still a psycho assassin, but I think it's good representation. She is definitely a villain you love to watch. So I would recommend those two places for some really, not only I think quality, strong LGBT representation, but quality characters and product as well. So that's today's Morning Movie News. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please write down below, I think, today's top 3 stories. Killian's viewer question: how do you think Disney should handle Elsa in Frozen 2? And can you recommend any really good LGBT stories out there right now, wherever they might be? Be sure to share them down below. And thank you, please. So again, thank you for tuning in. And also let me know what you'd like to see covered tomorrow and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.